think we can start now. Okay, thank you for joining us today. My name is Kath, Sustainability Campaign Manager, and with me is Attorney Diane, Legal and Compliance Officer. We are your hosts for today, and we are from Plastic Credit Exchange, or PCX.
Thank you, Kath, and thank you everyone for taking this time to join us. We are currently at 128 participants, so welcome everyone. All right, so last year, on July 23, the anticipated Extended Producer Responsibility Act lapsed into law. So after a series of stakeholder consultations and deliberations, led by persons who are also in this call and who we will introduce later, the implementing rules and regulations for the law was approved and released to the public just this week. So just this Tuesday, actually. Because of this law and its IRR, large companies are now obliged to take full responsibility for the plastic that they put out into the world throughout the life cycle of their products. In this event, we are happy to tackle what EPR is, what it means to be an obliged enterprise, and what we should take note of as regards compliance, and much more.
Okay, just a little housekeeping before we get started with the session. Attendees, please include your name and organization in your Zoom profile. And if you have any questions during the presentation, you may type them into the chat box. We'll try to do our best to bring them up during the Q&A proper towards the end of the session. And for those who have not registered through our online form, kindly register so that we can send you a recorded copy after the event. The registration link will be shown in the chat box.
All right, so without further ado, we'd like to introduce Ms. Nanette Medved Po, Founder and Executive Chairperson of Plastic Credit Exchange and Hope. Ms. Nanette.
Thank you so much, Diane, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon for the EPR Info Session of PCX. We'd like to especially acknowledge the presence of Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, the author of the bill in Congress. We have Senator Villar will be joining us via video, who authored the bill in the Senate. We have ComSec on ecology. Dilbert Quetillio is joining us. Hi, ComSec. Attorney Ivy Joyce de Pedro from the DENR-EMB. Attorney Zolio Andin, who was the consultant for the IRR under the UNDP, our friends from VERA, WWF, SGV, PwC, USAID, as well as the many partners who have been with us since the very beginning when we were a voluntary platform. I realize many of you have been waiting for this event for a while. We felt it was important to allow the DENR to release the IRR first so that our guests could have their questions addressed by the panel. That's why we invited this specific panel. So if you have any remaining questions after reading the IRR, please make sure that you ask them here today. This newly enacted EPR legislation is so important for the Philippines, not only for the obvious reasons around ensuring plastics are not polluting nature so that it doesn't seep into our water and our food systems. I know that Cong Rufus talks about this a lot, but also because the world is watching the Philippines. This is a unique opportunity for this country to model the kind of behavior that we want to see from the rest of the world on this important crisis. And we at PCX are so inspired because our partners, both voluntary and now compliance, have truly been wanting to be a part of the solution even prior to this government action. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of the solution, all the stakeholders in this meeting. And without further ado, let's start this session with a video from Senator Villar.
To all, thank you to the Plastic Credit Exchange for inviting me to be part of your online information session on Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, today. I am pleased to participate in this event through the video message. PCX is one of the organizations that gave us valuable inputs on EPR. In July 23 of last year, the legislation I principally authored, which is the Extended Producers Responsibility Act of 2022, or Republic Act number 11898, lapsed into law. In brief, the EPR Act mandates large enterprises to be responsible for the proper and effective recovery, recycling, or disposal of the plastic packaging on their products after the same have been sold and used by consumers, with the objective of reducing the generation of non-environment friendly packaging, improving the recyclability or reusability of plastic packaging waste, as well as to promote the efficient waste recovery programs aimed at preventing plastic waste from leaking into the environment. For what I gathered, the implementing rules and regulations of the law has just been issued by DNR via Department Administrative Order number 2, dated January 24, 2023. It is now in the process of publication to inform all sectors concerned. Under the EPR law, the enterprises obliged to practice EPR refer to product producers that are classified as large enterprises or those with assets of more than 100 million pesos and above that generate plastic packaging waste. We excluded the micro, small, and medium enterprises as it was determined that they could not bear the burden of an EPR at this time, as they are all still recovering from the impact of COVID pandemic. And their sheer numbers will make this law very hard to implement and monitor during the first years of implementation. Obliged companies may also set up or contract with a legal entity called a Producer Responsibility Organization to handle the resource recovery of such waste on their behalf. Obliged enterprises can comply with this law by merely shifting to other materials, as this only covers plastic packaging for now and not the product itself. By that we mean sachet, labels, and other flexible plastic packaging products, whether one layer or multiple. Rigid plastic packaging, whether layered with any other materials such as containers for beverages, food, home, personal care, and cosmetic products, including their cups or lids and other necessities, and promotional items. Plastic bags for carrying or transporting of goods, and polystyrene. The law targets plastic neutrality, meaning an obliged large enterprise can withdraw from the waste stream an equivalent amount of discards that its production will cost. Nevertheless, to give obliged enterprises sufficient period to adjust to their EPR mandate and improve performance over time, the law provided that the large enterprises should be able to recover and recycle a minimum of 20% of all packaging waste distributed for the year before by the end of 2023. The target rises to 40% on the second year, 50% on the third year, and so on until 80% by 2028. We mandated audits to be performed by all obliged companies for their EPR. Other measures we put in place include hefty fines and penalties for failure to establish an EPR program or if obliged enterprises fail to meet the target. This way, the state is not the one that bears the cost of recovering, collecting, and managing these discards, and the citizens are not the ones that bear the damage to their health and well-being. If done properly, extended producers' responsibility is also an opportunity, an open door to a thriving industry that pushes us into a circular economy where material cycles through lives and less land is lost to dumping and waste storage. There are ample evidence in many countries that EPR measures have allowed local government units and taxpayers to deflect the financial burden of waste management and transferred it to producers. EPR systems have indeed resulted in decreased volume of waste for final disposal and ushered in a thriving recycling industry. We need to rescue our country from being a marine little culprit and demonstrate that a developing country can and will make this work. The EPR law is not meant to put additional burden to the companies who are plastic packaging waste generators, but rather it is an acknowledgement and a call for help that plastic waste problem will not be solved without their invaluable cooperation. We hope to contribute in solving our plastic waste problem through legislation. We are not saying that the EPR law is the lone solution by itself, but it is a move in the right direction. I'm glad that Plastic Credit Exchange is one of the organizations that will be instrumental in the implementation of the EPR, as it advocates for a circular economy, and it has so far built a network of partners who recover, process, and recycle plastic waste. Good luck, PCX, on your worthy undertakings. I hope you will have a productive discussion on EPR today. Have a good day. God bless and stay safe.
Okay, thank you so much to Senator Villar for the comprehensive and supportive message regarding the EPR measure. We will begin the session proper now with a discussion on what exactly is EPR and the importance of having this measure in place. Our speaker for this topic is one of the active advocates of the EPR in Congress. He's also a current member for the majority in the Committee on Ecology. Please welcome Congressman Rufus Rodriguez.
Thank you very much. And first, let me just congratulate and thank Ms. Nanette Medved Po, the founder and the chairman of the Plastic Credit Exchange for organizing this forum this afternoon. And to all officers of the Plastic Credit Exchange and all our guests, government and the private sector. This law is very important because huge amounts of plastic waste that are uncollected and leaked into nature or are filling out our limited sanitary landfill space, they threaten our health and environment. This problem of plastic pollution needs crucial intervention to immediately lower the production of plastic packaging, efficiently recover its waste, and ensure that these get diverted into the circular economy to reduce the bulk of residual waste for final disposal in these sanitary landfills. Such policies are established under this Act, the Public Act 11898, and this seeks to amend the Public Act 9003, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Act of 2000, so over 22 years ago. Now, what is the answer to this? One of the answers, not really the entire solution, is to have this extended producer responsibility. And that's why this act is also known as the EPRA. The EPRA Act, EPRA, Extended Producers Responsibility Act, EPRA. Now, EPR is a policy approach and practice where producers are held environmentally responsible throughout the life cycle of their product, especially the plastic packaging waste that comes after their product is sold, consumed, or disposed. Now, this is in line with the polluter pays principle, And this act obliges enterprises to take accountability for the waste that their products generate. Then, what types of plastic packaging are subject to EPR? Well, this is supplied on plastic packaging that are designed to carry, protect, pack goods for transportation, distribution, and sale. Now, who are required? Who are obliged to implement EPR on plastic packaging? Are everybody, all enterprises in the Philippines required? My bill included medium enterprises. However, the final version is only for large enterprises, probably just to start. But I want to have especially the medium, because there's so much in the medium enterprises putting up waste to our environment. And that is why, because it's only what was approved is the large enterprises. This means only large enterprises, meaning those with assets of 100 million or more. So that is large enterprises that are covered by this. Now, must the EPR be registered? Of course, because we will monitor them, government will monitor them. Obliged enterprises, these are large enterprises, must register their EPR programs with the National Solid Waste Management Commission, okay, NSWMC, through the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Registration requires submission of pertinent information, which the DENR shall use for subsequent evaluation of program compliance. So the government will evaluate, monitor, and evaluate compliance of this law. Now, how will these large enterprises retrieve the plastic waste? Obliged enterprises may undertake any strategy that can result in high retrievability to retrieve them, high recyclability, and resource recovery of their plastic waste product, including waste recovery schemes through redemption, buyback, or offsetting. That is under Section 6 of our law. Now, how can an obliged enterprise implement this EPR program? The obliged enterprises have the option to institute the EPR program individually by its own, by the company itself, collectively with some other companies, and then or through what we now call the producer PRO, the Producer Responsibility Organization. So therefore, this particular, in implementing the EPR on behalf of the enterprise, the PRO can establish links with distributors, retailers, and waste management entities to facilitate recovery of the plastic waste. So therefore, to make the PRO sustainable and compliant with the purpose of this act, DENR shall establish a system or parameters, including standards and guidelines for PROs. That is, if the company does not do it individually or collectively and gets a PRO. Now, how soon must obliged enterprises start implementing their mandate? According to law, 6 months from the date of approval, which was July 23. But I think the better way to do it is probably months after the IRR is approved. I think that is what you will follow. Okay, so but the law says 6 months from July, and so 23. Okay, but it's enactment. Okay, or by January 2023. Ayan. So by January 23. So that should be just the other day. So now, therefore, how much? Ito na importante dito. Ito yung how much. How many? How many will be recovered by the obliged enterprise? Now, this is the situation. I wanted to have a faster one to finish it in 3 years, but I was overruled. Okay, so this is now how this will be implemented. Section 6 of 44F sets the following targets for the recovery of plastic product footprint generated during the previous year. 20% by the end of this year, 2023. 20% lamang. Okay. 40% by the end of 2024. That will be next year. 50% by the end of 2025. That is the election year. And then 60% by the end of 2026. 70% by the end of 2027. So very gradual, and 80% by the end of 2028 and thereafter. So hindi nga nasabi dito yung 100% eh, 80% and thereafter. So yan, mine would have been 100% in 2024. But anyway, so that is what we have now. And then therefore, enterprises that generate either rigid or flexible plastic packaging shall recover or offset the respective plastic packaging footprint. This means the recovery of used sachets, which cannot be offset with plastic drink. This means that all of this should now be recovered under our law. And so with that, let me end here, because the distinguished, very active committee secretary of the Committee of Ecology, Dilbert, has been assigned in this program to discuss government requirements, incentives, and especially penalties, because I want to see the pollution board convicting people and giving fines. We put them to jail. Those who will not comply, let us put all of them in the jail, so that we will make sure that this will be implemented. I expect by next year, those who will not comply with 20%, they will go to jail, and also they will pay the 10 million to 15 million. So I will end here, and I have to immediately leave this meeting because I am going to the airport as my flight is 3 o'clock. So therefore, I would like to thank all of you. Nanette, thank you very much. Plastic Credit Exchange, our officials, thanks so much for being able to be with this. We are all serious. We are EPR warriors. We are warriors to make sure that the EPR law will be implemented properly and effectively. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to each and everyone.
Thank you, Kong Rufus. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
hope our partners on the call are not more afraid now. This is supposed to be a comforting call for them. I hope nobody feels like they're gonna go to jail. Thank you so much, Kong Rufus. Have a
Okay.
great trip.
Yes,
Well,
that will be the other part, to assure them that no one goes to jail. Thank you very much.
that's ComSec. That's ComSec.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kong.
Thank you, Kong.
All right, thank you, Congressman Rufus, for that very inspiring and comprehensive overview of the EPR Act. We know you have a busy day ahead, so on behalf of PCX, thank you for your continuous support in our shared mission. Now that we have a basic understanding of what EPR is, the next questions on your mind are probably, how can you comply? What are the requirements? What are the penalties? To discuss this topic, please welcome Committee on Ecology Secretary, Attorney Dilbert Quetillio.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be sharing a screen. Okay. If I will be allowed. Well, I was tasked, and good afternoon, everyone, and giving us the honor to participate in this EPR Info Session. Attorney Rufus was here, and thank you for the video presentation of Senator Villar. I think they said it all, and I was being called by the Chief of Staff of Kong Rufus. Sabi niya, but nandiyan pa siya because he has a flight at 3 o'clock. But anyway, going ahead, I think I only have 5 minutes. So I am tasked to talk about the government requirements and penalties under EPR law. So I would presuppose that I would be talking about the instruction and some general guidelines provided by law under RA 11898 with corresponding specific penalties. All right. As to the very, very detailed, I think our representative, Attorney Ivy, and Attorney Zolio from the UNDP and EMB, yes, we'll talk about more on the details of this. All right. Okay. Well, first instruction, first directive would be the registration of EPR programs under Section 44E. And you should note that it is inclusive of the valid inclusions. Kumbaga, it should include the reduction of a non-environment friendly packaging products, which would be requiring schemes for the adoption of reusable packaging products and inclusion of recycled content and recycled materials in the packaging materials, and the adoption of appropriate product refilling systems, IA schemes, and appropriate labeling already identified under the IRR and under DAO number 2023-01, and I've been wondering what is 01. This is 02. So what could be the 01 now? Anyway, the next schemes that should be considered in the EPR program would be the recovery aspects, all right? It should include waste recovery schemes through redemption, buyback, etc., diversion of unrecovered waste into value-adding and useful products or value chains, transportation of recovered waste to the appropriate sites, and then clean up of waste leak to coastal areas, public roads, with the exemption. I think it would be the exemption identified in the IRR, which is exempt in illegal dump sites, or whether it is informal or being tolerated by the LGUs, when precisely on account of we do not want to encourage illegal dump sites and pass the burden to producers to clean up the same. All right. Anyway, they have the option to clean up these dump sites as well. They are not prohibited under the law, nor by the IRR. And then we have to consider, the EPR has to consider as well the establishment of commercial or industrial waste diversion or disposal facilities. And of course, the partnership with LGUs, although this is somehow made optional because they use may, but nevertheless, in order to, I would always assume that in order to achieve the purposes of this act, in order to be efficient, you need to, establish a sort of, partnership schemes or strategy with LGUs, communities, and other informal settlers. So that this is the instruction, and then it provides penalty for the violation of non-registration of EPR programs or valid EPR programs. So there, the law provides for the first offense 5 million to 10 million, then 10 million to 15 million for the second offense. Then the third offense is 15, 20 millions, and plus, I think this came from Congressman Rufus, the automatic suspension of business permit until the requirements of EPR Act and or its IRR is complied with. Then another instruction or directive is for the producers to achieve or attain recovery targets set forth under Section 44F. Then, of course, this will necessitate a submission of valid ECAR. And this ECAR was coined under the DAO administrative order, or the under IRR of the EPR as the EPR compliance audit reports. Okay, so if this would be falsified, and of course your ECAR will be invalidated or somehow it will not be accepted, then you would not be considered as compliant with this recovery targets. Okay, so we have the recovery targets as already as mentioned by Congressman Rufus. By 2023, 20%, 40%, 50%, 60%, and 80% every year after December 31, 2028. It provides two sets of penalties, and the law says, and it came from, I think, yes, it came from Senator, Congressman Villar and Congressman Rufus. So they said that it should be whichever is higher. So the first set would be the first set that we have already mentioned a while back, the 5 million to 10 million for the first offense, 10 million to 15, and 15 to 20 with the automatic suspension of business permit. That is the first set. And then it provided the second set, which is twice of the cost of the recovery or diversion, footprint, or its shortfall. So whichever is higher. And I think that would be all for the government requirements and the penalties insofar as the law is concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Quetillio, for the thorough overview on the instructions and directives under the EPR scheme. Now, for our next topic, the EPR is a measure that provides benefits to the overall circular economy. But what are these benefits exactly? What are the pitfalls and how can they be avoided? To tackle these questions, let's open the floor for Attorney Ivy Joyce de Pedro from the DENR-EMB Pollution Adjudication Board.
Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Ayan. So I will be discussing with you some of the highlights of the EPR and how to avoid pitfalls at paano natin sana maiwasan na lang no, that we would be penalized in the future. Wag naman sana, just like what Attorney Dilbert has stated a while ago. So what we are actually recommending is for you to not hide. Register, because as provided by the law, 6 months from the effectivity of the EPR Act, obliged enterprises should register their EPR programs to the National Solid Waste Management Commission through the department. And by that, through the department, it meant through the National Ecology Center. So mamaya isi-share ko kung ano yung email address ng National Ecology Center para doon na kayo mag-inquire, mag-submit. If you want to submit an advance copy, you may do so. So paano natin ma-avoid ang possible pitfall in the future? So we anticipate, comply, and expound. So what should we anticipate? In the first year of implementation of this RA 11898 or the phase-in period, we have to anticipate the amount of plastic that we would be generating for this year so that we could comply with the registration. And of course, not only comply, how do we comply if we are not going to expound? And that is what we are going to ask of you, the details of your plastic footprint. Yan po ang kailangan namin makita as evaluators of the EPR registration. Because non-registration, as Attorney Dilbert has stated a while ago, is one of the offenses as amended by Section 8 of RA 11898. In the registration of our EPR programs, we have to take into consideration these factors: the determination of our mode of compliance, the checklist of requirements as stated in the IRR, the components of EPR program as provided by the law. We also have provided in the IRR sample geographic implementation or rollout plan, which I will be discussing with you later. the process flow of the EPR registration and sample EPR program flow para po doon sa mga wala pang idea kung ano yung dapat na maging program. So ito po yung mode of compliance natin with the EPR law. You as an obliged enterprise or the MSME, the voluntary MSME, may implement their own EPR program individually. Obliged enterprises naman who belong to, for example, a group of companies may form a collective for them to implement their EPR program. They may authorize or form as well a PRO, a producer responsibility organization, to serve as a viable platform for the implementation of their EPR program. So yan po ang ating modes of compliance with the EPR law. The obliged enterprise may form PRO or authorize, or pwede naman silang individual or collective. This is what the IRR has stated. Registration checklist, wala po ito sa law, nasa IRR po ito. The letter of intent and other supporting documents kung kayo po ay mag-register as obliged, as PRO or collective. So ayan po, the totality of the requirements as provided in the IRR, mababasa nyo naman po. Ang pinakamahalaga dito is your EPR program. Of course, we will be evaluating that, your EPR program. In your EPR program, ito naman po yung kailangang requirements natin na mag-appear doon sa application nyo. The specific type of plastic packaging material and product brands, but the disclosure of volume of that is not required. We only need the aggregate of the totality of your generated plastic footprint. Verifiable volume or weight of the plastic packaging brought into the market within a specified period. So, kanina sinabi ko that we need to anticipate. Just like in the first year of implementation, 2023, we have to anticipate based on your previous records kung gaano yung i-generate nating plastic packaging throughout the year so that makatugon tayo doon sa ating waste diversion target, which in 2023 is 20%. Other EPR programs, kasi baka may mga EPR programs naman kayo that are already implemented even before the enactment of this law. So you need to indicate that as well. The labeling of packaging materials to facilitate recovery, reuse, recycling, or proper disposal of packaging materials. Status of implementation of EPR mechanisms, kailangan ditong i-disclose kung kani-kanino kayo nakipag-tie up, whether waste collectors or diverters, and status of compliance. In this status of implementation, we provided an example in the IRR on how are you going to present your geographic implementation program or rollout plan. The aim of this geographic implementation program is for you not to limit your waste recovery in urban areas because this EPR law is ultimately designed to prevent marine litter. So kailangan din in the geographic implementation, magba-branch out ka into other coastal areas then and not just focusing on urban areas. Ito example lang to, the obliged enterprises anyway can design and strategize their own implementation. But in this example, in 2023, you will recover from Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, and Metro Davao. Until 2028, you have already reached 4 to 6 class municipalities. But of course, it's up to the obliged enterprise to design their own. This is the overview of the EPR registration process. So as soon as you are able to complete your requirements, as stated a while ago, of your EPR application and your EPR program, you assign the same to the National Ecology Center. Within 3 days, we will do a completeness check. If not complete, babalik po namin yan. Tapos magre-register kayo ulit, mag-a-apply kayo ulit. Within 3 days din, kung kulang pa rin, ibabalik namin. But kung kumpleto naman na, we will give you a letter through email for you to comply with the payment of fees so that we could now, which should be done within 20 days. So if you are already compliant, the National Ecology Center will put security markings to your EPR registration and give a copy to you. Para kapag nag-evaluate and compliance monitoring kami in the future, yan yung unang-una naming hahanapin sa ating mga obliged enterprises. Ito ang sample illustration ng EPR program flow. So again, it's up to the obliged enterprise to design their own. So obliged enterprise may have their own mechanism of redesign, reuse, or recycle. But nonetheless, what they are going to distribute in the market for the consumption of consumers ay mapupunta yan sa ating mga waste collectors and diverters na pwedeng makipag-tie up kay obliged enterprises. Anyway, again, it's up to the obliged enterprise to strategize. All of this program flow should be subject to independent third-party audit. Again, ultimately, what we need to comply is the compliance targets as provided by the law. That by the end of 2023, 20%. Hindi po kung mag-register ka by 2025, 50%, 50% na kaagad ang target of recovery and diversion needed mo. Hindi ka babalik sa 20%. So might as well anticipate, especially if you are an MSME transitioning to large enterprise, as early as now, mag-comply ka na. While you are not required by the law to comply, at least napapractice mo na yung iyong manner of compliance with the law. Kasi kung magre-register by 2026, 60% na agad ang need. So that will be all for my presentation. If you have further questions and inquiry, please direct it to our email, epr@emb.gov.ph. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Ivy Joyce. It's great to hear from a representative of the government agency who will receive our applications and who is primarily tasked to implement the law. At the end of our session proper, we will be conducting a Q&A. However, for Attorney Ivy Joyce, if you will indulge us, there are two questions that were asked offline prior to this session. So we believe that you are the best person in this call to answer these questions and give reassurance to our participants. So Attorney Ivy Joyce, the first question is, I know this was already part of your presentation, but just to be 100% sure, just to give complete reassurance to everyone in this call, when is the deadline for the EPR registration?
Okay, hindi ko pala nasabi yung mismong date, no? Kanina sinabi ni Congressman Rufus, no, within 6 months, but the law stated within 6 months from the effectivity of the law. So while the law, the EPR lapsed into law on July 23, 2022, it was published on July 28, 15 days following the completion of publication. That would be on August 12. Hence, you should register by February 12, 2023.
February 12. All right. This is a date that everyone in this call should remember. Okay.
Yes.
So the next question relating to your presentation, Attorney Ivy, is on the checklist of requirements. So we know that we have an obliged enterprise or a collective or a PRO has to submit certain forms. So included in the list is a letter of intent and a sworn statement, and there's also a excerpt. So we also just want to clarify if the DENR will be releasing any official templates that we should use, or are we free to craft our own?
Okay, so as of the moment, we are still in the process of formulating our application form. But kung wala pa naman yung application form, the letter of intent will do, as long as you are attaching therewith all of those that are indicated in the IRR. Nevertheless, kung kulang naman yung submissions, we will return it back to you.
Yes, so thank you, Diane, for that question. I just want to, add to what the DENR is saying here today. Actually, in the absence of the DENR's forms, and I know they're working very hard to do this. They're taking this so seriously. In the absence of that, PCX already has our forms that we will be submitting to them in the meantime in order to meet the deadlines. And I believe those who are already part of our PRO are already on the list for I think we're doing an early submission just so that the Office of Attorney Ivy can review it in case there are any revisions required prior to the deadline. They can let us know, because to her point, the templates are not yet available. So our forms will be used for the initial submission.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Nanette. So I'm sure that some of the attendees here also have other questions for Attorney Ivy Joyce, but before we move on to our Q&A, we'd like to move on to our next speaker. So she will be navigating the compliance and requirements of the EPR. Sorry, I lost my connection for a bit. Okay, to discuss this, please welcome our Senior Sustainability Campaign Manager, Meg Santos.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So great to see everyone here on the call, and thanks again to the representatives from DNR, as well as to Cong Rufus and to the Office of Senator Villar for sending their messages. So I'll just quickly, share what the work that we're doing at Plastic Credit Exchange. Our mission is always based on, of course, maximizing the impact. We want to make sure at the end of it all, right, that we avoid plastic ending up in nature and contribute to a circular economy. So let me know if you can already see my screen. And let's go right through it. So of course, there's a great momentum towards the circular economy, mainly driven by consumer expectations, right? And I'm sure this is something that especially the obliged enterprises have felt. And they have already done voluntary corporate action. So we would also like to recognize the companies who have been doing voluntary work with us since 2019, even pre-EPR. And thank you also to our aggregating and processing partners, who, as well as our LGU partners, who help us set up a system to make EPR successful. And of course, most recently, as previously explained by our speakers, there have been regulatory tailwinds, and actually extended producer responsibility is something that is actually present already in more than 35 plus countries. And in March 2022, representatives from 175 countries endorsed a resolution to end plastic pollution. And in 2022, as mentioned, Philippines introduced the most aggressive EPR policy for plastics. And we're glad to have that confirmation that we are looking at the correct deadline, that the first compliance deadline is Feb 12, 2023. And as Ms. Nanette has mentioned, we intend to submit earlier, Feb 3rd, so that we can also already get feedback from DNR in terms of the content of the EPR program that we will submit on behalf of the OEs under our PRO. So basically, how can we help? That's a question that we always ask our partners. Really are doing this to help you. Let's help each other because we share the same mission. We want to be, and we are, a compliance service that offers different assistance, from footprint audit to submission of the EPR program, offsetting management, and reporting to DENR. We understand that different OEs are at different levels of sustainability and may not exactly have the right management bandwidth at the moment. And we want to concentrate that management bandwidth into making sure that management really focuses on looking at ways that we can further reduce plastic and find ways that we can reduce plastic footprint. But since we have EPR, and EPR is a way for us to move towards a more circular economy, we're there to help you. And we are the first in the world to actually establish a plastic offsetting standard, and we proudly export this globally. We also wanted to clarify that, plastic credits, it's not a license to pollute, but it's a way for us to make sure that we invest back into the circular economy, help in building infrastructure, and make sure that that investment really goes and funnels through the communities that need it. We have been operating as a voluntary PRO since 2019, and we position our partners for compliance on day one of EPR and going beyond to meet ESG targets. So we're also very happy to share that we are partners, and soon the DNR will also recognize these partners who are going to commit 100% already. Some of them have been doing it pre-EPR, and there are others who have committed to do 100% for this year. And we want to recognize and, of course, acknowledge the great efforts and commitments coming from these companies as well. So for those OEs who have committed to do 100%, we definitely are happy to support you. We understand it's not an easy task, but we are here together with our network of partners to help you achieve this. So that's basically who we are at Plastic Credit Exchange. What we offer is a full service plastic offset platform. We work with many different agencies, many different organizations, because we know and understand that there's no silver bullet, there's no one single solution to end plastic waste. So of course, the foundation of this all, our first step right now, as common with a lot of companies, is really EPR compliance. We help making sure that there's a right footprint calculation as well. We do this together with our partners. We have a credit standard while we're waiting for the DENR to also put out, a standard. And while there is still no singular global standard yet, we are one of the voluntary global standard setters who make sure that we integrate best practices, especially our experiences on the field. Aside from that, we also have net zero eco-labeling for net zero plastic waste, especially for those brands and companies who will be achieving more than what is required of EPR. And the good thing about this is we already have a running public digital registry for offsets. So we are already on version 2, hosted on the blockchain, Ethereum. We have third-party verification, and we want to make sure that everything is accounted for. There's no double counting. Impact is really felt and done. That's why we have a transparent blockchain tracing. So we have a clear track record of operations. And of course, this is a joint effort from our partners who continue to invest in building a more circular economy. So going right through it, of course, together with the OEs, we provide EPR compliance. We currently have certified projects of over 200,000 metric tons, and is very much aligned with what the EPR covers in terms of its definition of what's included in the plastics, whether it's flexibles, rigids, plastic bags, and polystyrene. We're able to issue the offsetting through what we call a plastic credit, which is basically a transactable environmental asset representing 1 metric ton or 1,000 kilograms of plastic waste that has been documented, collected, verified, processed, and registered to the blockchain for full accountability. So we really make sure that what was issued to company A or OEA is not the same cleanup that will be done by OEB. And this version actually is the first version of the plastic registry that we have, which we co-developed with Microsoft Innovations Lab. But if you go visit on the website, we already have version 2 that's up and running, where you can have access in terms of records that will help the general public as well as the OEs understand the flow of plastic, where it was collected, who processed it, etc. And we are confident that we can definitely help companies achieve the required plastic footprint to be offset. Of course, starting with the first compliance year this year for 20%, up until 80% by end of 2028. But again, we do encourage companies, if you are at the liberty to do more and you're committed to do more for the planet, then we can definitely achieve 100% way earlier than the milestones that are suggested. And in terms of the audits, as mentioned by Attorney Joyce, so we do encourage companies to have their plastic footprints to be audited by a third party. Right now, we are working with auditors like PwC, SGV, and Control Union. Our projects, which we call PPRS or Plastic Pollution Reduction Standard compliant projects, are also audited before they become part of the platform. So for those that are PPRS compliant, these comply not only with the minimum requirements of EPR, but also comply with additionality. And we also have projects that contribute to additional income, especially to the communities who need it. Again, we are happy to help you because we have a network already of providers. And just send us over a message, and I'm sure we'll be reaching out to you, because we really want to make sure that EPR is successful in all of its good and great intentions as we move forward to a more circular economy. And our ultimate goal is to get bumped off of the top-notch list, right, for the most polluted countries in the world, and we become really the source of solutions that we can export globally. And of course, for those beyond compliance, we already have some samples of brands who are using net zero plastic waste on their packaging. This is also a way for us to educate consumers in terms of responsible consumption, encourage people to understand really the value of EPR, what it brings to the table as more consumers make the right choices, especially when it comes to what is helpful and what's beneficial for the planet. And as I mentioned earlier, beyond the PH-EPR Act, PCX aligns with international developments on EPR and plastic credit systems. So we put out a joint statement together with other voluntary standard setters like PV Rio, Repurpose, Vera, because we welcome the call for a global plastics agreement, as we believe that plastic credits are one part of the solution, and there are more ways that we can do to collaborate and help each other. We're also happy to share with you some of the case studies in terms of the work we've done with brands like PepsiCo. And I'll just quickly share a video about the Allington Dare program that we have. Earlier, it was mentioned that there is, of course, a plan and intention to build this program outside of the metro, and we're happy to share that for the Allington Dare program, we are already existing in more than 100 locations nationwide. We also have pilot locations in dive resorts in Anilao for ocean collected plastic, in provinces outside of Metro Manila. We also have collection points in Visayas and in Mindanao like Cebu and Davao. So we're very glad to have this opportunity to not just help in cleaning up plastics, but also contribute to encouraging women to be sustainability champions and provide additional incremental income to the communities. So let me quickly share this video that we co-developed with PepsiCo. Okay, let me reshare again. I think there's no audio. Apologies for that.
Bilang aling tindera, mamimili ng mga sachet, plastic bottles, para hindi po mga kapitbahay namin, para dito na lang po magbebenta sa amin ng mga sachet at saka mga bottles, para hindi na magkalat sa mga drainage, para hindi pa po tayo bumaha.
Barangay po namin, kalapit na kalapit po mismo ng San Juan River. Malaki pong tulong yung pagkakaroon ng aling tindera sa barangay namin. Yung mga basura o plastics na dati pong iniitsa lang sa ilog, ngayon po iniipon ng mga tao. At ito po ay binibenta. Nagkakaroon po sila ng income kahit papaano.
Nung nagkaroon kami ng aling tindera project, luminis na ang amin mga lugar.
Ako po bilang isang chairman po na nagkaroon po ng ganitong proyekto sa aming barangay ay naghihikayat. Natanggapin niyo po ang ganitong proyekto sa inyo pong mga barangay, hindi lang po sa Metro Manila, kundi maging po sa iba pang lugar dito sa ating bansa.
So definitely we have the game plan to take on the challenge ahead. There are a lot of concerns, not just on plastic credits, but overall in the execution of the EPR, like greenwashing, enabling business as usual, double counting impact, lack of traceability and transparency, lack of additionality, and lack of socio-economic development. And we're glad that we've had the time and the opportunity to do this on a voluntary basis, as it allowed us to further improve our systems to address these concerns. And we're very happy to work together with you to further improve it. So that being said, let's get to work. There's a lot to be done, exciting years ahead as we move towards circularity, and we're glad to be EPR warriors with you. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you so much, Meg. Now we want to give a quick shout out first to our representatives from Aling Tindera, Ilio Farias, Managing Director, and Marvin Fernandez, Operations Manager. Now we will open the floor for open discussions and Q&A. We'll first tackle those relevant questions already sent through the registration form, and then we'll try our best to include those from the chat box as well, and other questions that have not yet been asked or discussed. Aside from our speakers, also joining us in this open discussion are our PCX Standards and Compliance Manager, Athalie Reyes, and Attorney Zolio Andin Jr., consultant under UNDP.
Okay, so to everyone in the panel, Attorney Andin, Atali, Ms. Nanette, and Attorney Ivy Joyce, and Attorney...
Attorney Andin, please, because he was the
Yeah.
person who so kindly
Yes.
the drafting and writing of the IRR. So thank you so much, Attorney Andin, and being so patient with all the different stakeholders and their questions.
Maraming salamat. My pleasure po. Something's going on with my video. I'll fix it while we're discussing. Pero sige lang po. Tuloy lang po tayo.
You look like you're in the same place as Congressman Rufus.
Yeah, Sir Dilbert. Boss.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So everyone, please feel free to chime in and contribute at any point in this discussion. Okay, to start the conversation, the first question, this is a question that came up a lot when we sent invites to our OEs. So this question is, will there be accreditation requirements for auditors and PROs?
The answer is yes, but to be formulated. We're still formulating it. It falls in the same target for targeted for September 30, 2023. No? So kasama yon. But as a stopgap measure, in case we miss that target, we for year one, at least the year one compliance audit, 2023 compliance audit, if we're not able to come up with the standards or the accreditation system, CPA ang nakalagay sa IRR. That way, may accountability pa rin. But definitely, it's not, we recognize it's not financial audit, so we need to transition immediately. So kasama yan sa Russian at Argentinian work namin nila Attorney Ivy.
All right, Attorney. Just for clarity, the guidelines that are still being crafted, this is for the auditors, Attorney, not for PROs?
Ganito, for PROs, you're basically left to your own rules, okay? You develop your own rules. The law did not require a monopoly or single government PRO. No, it did not do that. It opened the field. Now, the question is, should government interfere in how PROs and obliged enterprises chart their course, compliance course? The government decided no. So consequently, what government will require, one is you have to be a registered entity, legal entity. Two, BIR compliance. Three, you have your own roster of members because you cannot register a PRO na parang sa SEC na parang shell corporation. No, you have to have members. Fourth, you and your members must have an EPR program because the platform ang PRO. So ganun kalinaw yun. Now yung audit, ano yung audit na pinag-uusapan? Kaya you implement as an individual, you implement as a collective or an exclusive club, or you implement as a PRO, you audit yung report mo, your compliance for the year. Yun yung audit standards. So we develop our audit standards, audit methodology, accreditation of third-party auditors, and number 4, sustainability reporting. Yun yung 4 na naka-agenda sa EMB.
Thank you, Attorney Andin. Very clear. Diane, Gath, I think we can move to the next question.
One of the questions already submitted by our registrant. Can you provide any clarity on the scope of, further clarity rather, on the scope of EPR, the types of product packaging and merchandising materials covered by the law? And how will the plastic footprint be computed?
Ganito, okay? Sige. Unang-una, it's product packaging, okay? Plastic packaging. So, you produce, you distribute to the market. In the past, pag na-consume yan, nabenta, na-consume, problema ni LGU, kolektahin under 9003. Yan yung major step away from ng EPR. Now, it is you, the obliged, that are duty-bound to recover their footprint. First. Second, there are basically 4 types defined in the law: sachets or flexibles, rigids, and their accessories. No? So yung cutlery, yung cover, yung sibak, as well as promotional materials. Remember, people said, no, why are we in charge? We, coming obliged company, why are we in charge of the tarpaulins? We outsource that to third-party service providers. And ano sagot ng gobyerno? Simple. Kanino brand ba yung, sino ba nag-hire? Kanino brand yan? So therefore, kanino footprint yan? Yung tarpaulin, edi inyo. So inyo rin. Kasama yon. Okay? Then fourth is the third classification is plastic bags. Paano yung biodegradable plastic bags? Sagot namin, kahit biodegradable yan, kailangan mo pa rin i-EPR, i-recover, i-divert sa landfill for proper decomposition. Because pag hindi mo ni-recover yan, in-exempt mo sa EPR, sukal pa rin yan. Marine litter pa rin yan. Okay? So, kailangan EPRable din. Kahit gumagamit ka ng biodegradable plastic, EPRable yan. Degrade it in wherever you wish, in a composting pit or whatever. Fourth kind are polystyrenes. So, yun. Yun ang 4 general classifications ng plastic waste subject of EPR. Okay? So, inclusive of yung mga accessories and necessities niya for rigids. Paano offsetting? Pag sinabi mong offsetting, dalawa classification niya. Flexible. Sinong kasama sa flexible? Sachets, plastic bags, styro. The specific certain types of styro that are very flexible, kasama yan sa flexibles. Then you have your rigids. Kasama yung cover, yung PET bottle, and so on. Okay? So 2 general classifications. How do you offset? You offset flex to flex, rigid to rigid, regardless of brand. So regardless of brand. Kasi the objective, it is too impractical, expensive, and nagiging deterrent sa compliance kapag ni-require naman ng gobyerno na, like we originally thought, per brand pa. Sabi mo, mag-fail yan kapag ni-require mo na flex na ang recovery per brand pa. Wag. So sabi nila regardless of brand. So, okay, so ganun ang framework ng offsetting. Okay. So yun ang mga sagot ko muna for now. So I hope maraming tanong. Please.
Okay, we encourage everyone in this call to send your questions in the chat box and we'll get into it later. Okay, the next question relates to audit. Are revisions in the plastic audit allowed?
I'm sorry? Sorry. Nag-lag ka, Attorney Panyera.
Are revisions in the plastic audit allowed? I think they mean po, once the ECAR is submitted, can they revise it?
No. You have to deal with your auditor because your auditor will certify that. So you cannot on your own modify it. What EMB will do is to evaluate the report, and if it finds something hinky about it, then call your attention. You and your auditor to call your attention. Because syempre, if you accredit third-party auditors, may karampatang accountability yan for the reports that they certify. So we need to go through that process. So that's why ang advice namin, at ito, tinanong na rin ni Athalie sa akin before the forum, paano yung accomplishments ng 2022? Paano yung accomplishments ng 2021? Sabi ko, ilagay niyo yan sa status of compliance because we recognize we cannot turn our back, neither can we deny or begrudge early accomplishments. No, you took the initiative way ahead of government getting its act together. So we recognize that. However, can you use that as credit or accomplishment ng 2023 footprint? The answer is also no, because your footprint was generated in 2023 and therefore, your recovery must be 2023 also. Ang subject matter ng audit mo for the compliance audit, year 1 compliance audit is January 1 to December 31, 2023. Para malinaw po tayo sa bilangan sa audit.
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Andin. That's very, very
Yes,
helpful. Because, you know, to the point that Diane was making and Athalie, these are questions that were being asked. I just like to further elaborate, no? based on our experience, it is always a good idea if you can, as an OE, engage those companies who have experience in environmental audits. They are likely to have a better grasp on how to do this. We ourselves at PCX do work with very specific auditing companies who are using our plastic footprint calculator. If any of you on this call, we now have 214 people, if any of you would like to have a copy of our plastic footprint calculator, please just let our team know. We are happy to send it to you. It is an open system for anyone to use, so that hindi yung kanya-kanyang sipa, that there is a basis, at least until the standards have been released. Because in the past, we have used this with, whether it's SGV or PWC, to calculate the footprints. And to the point of Attorney Andin on recognizing past actions of companies, the current secretary of DENR has been incredibly supportive and thankful of the companies who have been doing things voluntarily, and actually looks forward to recognizing their work, because it demonstrates, and I know that we talked about this with ComSec several times during our sessions, that it just shows na kung talagang gugustuhin, kaya naman, 'di ba? So there are companies who have shown us the way. So don't be afraid, kaya naman po 'yan.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Let's go to the next question. This is in relation still to the plastic footprint calculated. Can we use the excess offsetting from 2023 targets to the 2024 targets?
For now, hindi pa. For now, hindi pa. Because why? Okay, some of you may have attended the FGDs. Why the shift? Okay. Of course, ideally, you should be able to trade them. Our using as model carbon credits, okay, and carbon trading. That was the envisioned model ng FGDs at the onset of the work. But down the line, as we progressed in the evolution and preparation of the IRR, we realized, and it was pointed out to us also by industry, wag ka muna pumasok sa trading ng credits kasi yung integrity measures mo are not yet in place. Neither have they been tested. So, yung integrity measures? Of course, yung standards mo for reporting, footprint, calculating footprint, tapos yung audit standards mo, and then yung auditors mo, kulang pa yan. So, wag muna. So, for now, diretso lang muna. Diretsong kwentahan. Ano yung projected footprint mo for the year? Diyan mo i-benchmark yung target mo. Kung mag-overcommit ka, that's fine. Walang problema yun. Huwag ka lang mag-under. Okay? So, ganun ka diretso lang. Yun ang recommendation namin. Ang question, sir, paano ho namin i-compute yung aming footprint for 2023? There are two sources that you can get. One, your historical production data or sales data from 2023 at 2022, or two, your projected production data for 2023. Do you need to disclose your production data and the production figures in your EPR? The answer is no. Those are confidential information. Sinong hihingin yan sa inyo? Yung inyong auditor, the third-party auditor, ang mangangailangan nun. Yung amounts, yan yung trade secret. Yan ang corporate secret. Pero yung footprint mo, hindi sikreto yan. Hindi sinisikreto yung footprint. Okay? Para maging malinaw tayo. Okay? So, ayan. Yan po ang natin. Ganun yung pag-compute nun.
Oo. And then in the case of a PRO, it is further hidden, maybe, if that's the right word, because the PRO submits as a group. So parang nakakonsolidate compliance.
Yan. Tama yan. Lahat sa PRO and collective, aggregated data. Aggregated data ng footprint, aggregated data ng targets, okay? Aggregated data. Pero kailangan ba ang obliged enterprise na miyembro ng PRO mag-report sa PRO niya at yung confidentiality of the details of those individual footprints ng miyembro ng PRO or collective are held in confidence by the PRO? The answer is yes. Bakit? Kasi pag ang PRO or collective ang nag-fail to meet its targets at siya ang ifa-fine ni Pollution Adjudication Board, nasa IRR na ang hihingan ng data at tatanungin, PRO, collective, ba't ka nag-fail? Sino ang hindi nakikipagtulungan sa iyo, sa mga miyembro mo? Ituro mo. Kasi para ma-impose, makasuhan sa PAB. Okay? What if ayaw mag-cooperate ng PRO? Ang ifa-fine ni PAB is the PRO itself. Bahala kayo magturuan. Bahala kayo, pero ang liability, dun aakit ang liability sa PRO at collective. Kaya mahalaga yung collaboration ninyo between PRO and the members. Magtulungan, joint effort to, hindi porke sumali ka sa PRO, bahala na si Batman. Hindi ganun. Yung obligasyon natin, nandyan. Responsibilidad natin, nandyan. Okay? So yun, but yun ang lamang, you can call it lamang. That's the advantage probably of signing up with the PRO is that medyo aggregated yung data. Hindi diretso. But right now, yung samples we are developing nila, Attorney Ivy, on reporting, no, on how it will be reported, particularly compliance with Section 16.3.1, no, and point 2. Especially 16.3.1. That's the requirement that you have to disclose the brand of the product plus the type of packaging that you release to the market. So it could, if it is shampoo, it may be 13 ml sachets, and then you have 90 ml rigid, up to 1 liter rigid. In fact, you have 650 ml na refill pack plus rigid. So ito, yan yung, but you see, the shampoo comes in so many forms. It's the same brand, but available in 6 variants. So, para fair naman, no, to the individual obliged, you aggregate. O, shampoo lahat to, ito brand. But kasama sa brand na to, variant 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Pero nire-release namin yan sa market in 13 ml sachets. All of it nilalabas namin. So yan yung packaging on 16.3.1. Pagdating sa 16.3.2, yung footprint aggregate na. Hindi mo na kailangan basagin per packaging type. Pero rigids and flexibles na declaration mo, aggregate footprint. Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Andin. In the chat box, there's a quick clarification lang. I think maybe Attorney Ivy can answer this. Kasi Feb 13 daw falls on a Sunday. So will the new deadline be Feb 10 or Feb 13?
Of course, ano bang nasa law, no? If the deadline falls on a Sunday, edi Monday.
Next working day. Next working day tayo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pag ginawa mong Friday, maaga ka pa sa deadline. Next working day na.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Kath, do we have more pre-submitted questions?
Yes, we do. So the next one, this is from SGB. What are the plans for streamlining the requirements for registration of waste diverters?
Okay. Ganito. Okay. Ganito. Are we going to register waste diverters? So recyclers, reusers. Ang question is, at the end of the day, nasa local yan. Nasa local yan. I think to try to streamline and accredit them on a national level would be an task next to impossible. Because when you go down to implementation of 9003 at the LGU level, not all of them have data on their diverters. Not all of them have a picture of exactly how many recyclers, junk shops, repair shops they have in their own city or municipality. I-require mo sa national. Baka yun yung yun yung medyo, when you develop your EPR standards and you implement your EPR standards and you develop your partnerships, that is something you will look at. Okay? you will look at together with your partner LGUs and your partner diverters or final or disposal facilities. Definitely, if they're SLF, they have to be registered with and licensed by the DNR with ACC. If they're COPRO, then they have their own permitting systems. Okay. Pero then yung ganun din sa mga those that reuse and recycle plastic, then it's a question of are they recognized by the LGU? Because at the end of the day, yung audit magsisimula sa inyo. Sa inyo, kayo ang iyong audit. So if there is there a plan right now, I don't even recommend undertaking or imposing upon DNR and EMB the obligation to register all waste diverters for EPR. Kasi ito na yung downlines mo. It might be next to impossible. Sa 9003 lang nightmare na. I'm telling you, nightmare na. LGU administration pa lang nightmare na. Mismong mayor hindi alam ilang recyclers. Mismong City Hall. Mismong BPLO ng local government units and hindi alam exactly how many junk shops, recyclers, repair shops meron dun sa bayan niya. Hingin pa ng national. Medyo ganun ho ang balancing dyan.
Okay, for the next
Pasensya na kayo, dati na akong Angry Birds. Dati na po ito. Sige. Next question. Meron tayo rito, may nakikita ako rito. Diane, if you don't mind, the question is it necessary to include the details of the independent third-party auditor that shall conduct the compliance audit in the EPR program? The answer is no. Kasi right now, hindi mo pa siya alam kung sino ang i-accredit mo. Can you use SGB? For example, you've used SGB, Ms. Nanette, you've been working with SGB, etc. What if hindi namin mailabas yung accreditation standards by September 30? What will SGB do? Can it still be SGB? The answer is yes. Can it be their sustainability group? The answer is yes. What do? Hiram sila ng accountant doon sa kabilang bakod. Doon sa Chinese wall nila, humiram sila ng accountant doon to certify. Okay? Ganon din with KPMG, ganon din with the Pricewaterhouse. Hiram lang muna hanggang mabuo naman ni gobyerno yung kanyang accreditation standards. Pero believe me, it's part of the targets. And we'll be reaching out to them also so that it's fair. The accreditation system is fair. Okay. Naghahabol ba gobyerno? The answer is yes.
Okay, that's good to know po, Attorney.
Is there a limit to the offsetting activities that an OE can perform under its EPR program? Should specific offsetting activities be specified in the EPR program? Is there any alternative to offsetting activities other than buying credits? Okay. Yung buying credits is internal sa inyo, as we said. Okay? On the government side, wala mo nang alam ang government sa credit buyer trading, ha? Malinaw tayo. Is there a limit to the offsetting activities? Right now, the general limit is flex to flex, rigid to rigid. Okay? Specific offsetting activities specified in the EPR IRR, wala. It's really your call. It's a question of anong strategy gagawin mo to do the offsetting to be able to generate the data as well as help recover the footprint that you release. So, yun yung 12, yung 6 upstreaming activities and the 6 downstream activities na nasa Section 44A ng batas. Okay? Yun yung ano. Kanino option, which of the 12 activities ang pwedeng gamitin? Under 44E, second paragraph, it is the choice of the obliged, the PRO, or the collective kung ano doon sa 12 ang pwede niya nang ilagay sa kanyang current EPR program, alin yung ipipursue niya in the future at isasubmit niya yun as an amendment of the EPR program. Ladies and gentlemen, do not think that your EPR program, let me disabuse your minds this early. Do not think that your EPR program is cast in stone. It's not. It's going to be a work in progress, not only for you, but also for government. Simply because as PROs, as PROs, you will continue to have more members. You will have members also deciding they join you first and then they will go on their own. May ganon eh. So we have to be dynamic in that manner. Every new member adds to the footprint and to the target. Every member that leaves is another member, another entity we will track separately, but it's a reduction. So it's a dynamic process, please. Don't think it's cast in stone.
Yes, attorney, thank you. Our next questions, we want to direct the next questions to ComSec. This is a question on the component of the EPR, but Attorney Andin and Attorney Ivy, Ms. Nanette and Atali, our Standards and Compliance Manager, feel free to chime in. So the question relates to the EPR program. Labeling of packaging material to facilitate recovery, reuse, recycling, or proper disposal. Will this be mandatory to all packaging materials, as this company needs to plan and change their packaging design to comply with this? Is the labeling of the packaging material mandatory to all packaging materials?
Ganito. Yung appropriate labeling for proper final disposal or proper disposition ng waste is actually nasa section 44A, subparagraph A, number 6. So at the end, it is up to you how you will adapt that for your product, okay? For final disposal and requirement. However, 44E encourages all of us to adopt these measures. Okay. Now, labeling, kasi very ticklish yan, very sensitive issue ang labeling. No? Ang laki ng impact din sa company to retool its production process, or even for yung service provider niya that provides in the packaging to retool itself to add that label. So there is that level of sensitivity and balancing. No? So if your question is it mandatory? The mandatory component is this, that you are compliant with all existing rules and regulations. So if you're with FDA, may requirements sa FDA, sumusunod ka. Nasa Consumer Protection Act yan, nasa all other laws. We cited these laws in the IRR. So please take a look at the provision in the IRR on labeling, on how labeling can be complied with. Okay. But yung for proper final disposal, again, it's something that will have to be crafted. But if you're ready with it, why not? Okay. So yung ginagawa ninyo sa PCX na may net zero eco-labeling, that's fine. It teaches people to get used to that. When they see that, they know where to bring it kay aling tindera. So it's a good practice.
Thank you so much, Attorney Andin. For the rest of the panel, is there anything that you want to add to that question? None? Okay, we can go to the next question. This is regarding mall tenants. How will certain mall tenants comply to the new law? Are they under the building administrator, or they will comply separately? Are the building owners required to make certain agreements regarding this compliance?
Okay. Look at the mall as a waste source. Okay. The mall itself might have its own EPR program. So if you're the producer of the product, you're an obliged enterprise that sells through a mall, you may have to talk to each other on how you will implement. I am sure the malls, if they are covered, if they are obliged enterprises, will come up with their own EPR program. So the question now, who will the tenant follow? It's an issue you will have to resolve with your landlord and your boss and your mother company. It's something you have to work out and then just describe it. No, you have to describe it lang in your EPR program, how it will be done. The same is true with franchises. Okay.
Yeah.
With franchises, same. LGUs have been asking me, sir, how will we know if itong franchise ng brand na to operating in my city is can I require them to implement their EPR program here? Pag-implement siya ng EPR program. Sabi ko, Mayor, easy. Tignan muna natin through the NEC database kung yan yung brand nila ay nagrehistro ng EPR program for their company. Pag nakita mong oo, wag mo na maisahin, baka sabihin pinag-iinitan mo. Ipunin mo na sila. So kung food chain yan, fast food yan, ipunin mo na sila sa isang meeting. O nakita ko, ikaw, nag-register na pala. Nakita ko sa database ng NEC. O bueno, paano tayo magtutulungan? Ako yung host LGU nyo, obligado kayo, paano tayo magtutulungan? Partnership, boss, ang approach, hindi po diktawag. Kasi they will have to. Pag sinabing, sir, wala pa ho kayo sa priority ni LGU, ay medyo sabihan mo na yung mga bossing mo na ready kami to support you. Ito yung program namin. So you present to them your waste tracking program, and then your database na investment ready kayo for EPR. That's how I encourage LGUs right now.
Yeah, thank you, Attorney Andin. I can weigh in on that a little bit because may experience na po kami sa retail sector, no? So in the retail sector, usually, and by the way, we have partnerships with SM, with Mega World, etc. But usually po, kung sino yung nag-post ng question, usually at the store level po, usually you are not obliged at the store level. It is usually at the headquarters level for which you are obliged. And as the headquarters, you should be the one to come up with your EPR plan. Now, if your EPR plan includes store level activities, then you may either execute these yourselves within the store or with your mall operator. So a good example is SM. Merong mga waste collection centers si Alingtin. Well, we don't call it Aling Tindera, but PCX has waste collection centers in the SM malls where you can bring your waste, or if you are looking to recycle or if you're looking to reuse, meron naman yung mga malls programs like that, no? So if you're looking at that kind of an activity, then it's a store level decision. But if your decision is to offset, and many of our partners who have retail outlets in malls, if they are planning to offset, wala po yan kinalaman at the store level, because what we do is, let's say if we are aggregating at SM waste, the plastic waste, hindi namin sinasabi, oh, ito yung kay store A, ito yung kay store B. Kasi to the point that Attorney Andin said earlier, these are brand agnostic activities, hindi kailangan siya per brand. So if your headquarters your retail outlet is saying we are going to do 20%, kahit saan pa manggaling pa yung recovery ng footprint na yun, okay lang. So hindi kayo dapat po mag-alala at the store level.
Yes.
Okay. The next question is kind of related to that as well. It relates to, hold on, sorry. Okay, so the proponent wants to be anonymous. He said, we are collecting residual wastes from LGUs and it is mixed. In terms of recovery declaration, could we use the existing data from the LGU, the WACS, to identify the percentage of flexible or rigid plastics? Or are we expected to further segregate the residual wastes for an actual counting of volume?
I think you should be, kasi magkaka-error ka in reporting eh. If you weigh it as mixed, so pati yung compostable na-add mo sa weight. So ngayon, pag kinompute versus footprint, akala mo reliable. Pagdating sa audit, pwedeng sumabit. At ang liable sa audit, yung obliged. So wag po. Ako, my recommendation is pag hinatiran ka ng mixed, obligado kayong bukurin nyo so that yung accurate yung data. Okay? Accurate yung data. Okay? By the way, anyway. So, yun. Now, pwede ka bang maningil for this added service of segregating? Then maybe yes. No? But it depends on your discussions or agreements with the obliged. Kasi si obliged naman, i-claim niya as business expense yan. Pero again, ang mangyayari dyan, babalik si obliged kay LGU, boss, tulungan mo naman kami and make sure na segregated tayo. Palakasin natin. O doon tayo magtulungan. So para ma-unburden ka naman sa dulo. Okay? So yun po.
Okay, Kath, do we still have some questions from the chat box?
Actually, ako marami
Yeah.
nakikita.
Yeah, we can take live questions from the chat box. One of those, this one. Will there be tax breaks for companies with programs that will exceed the set production targets?
Will there be what? Tax?
Tax breaks for those who exceed the reduction
You
target.
apply. You
Like
apply po.
incentive.
You apply po. You apply.
Oo.
Actually, the pursuit of, let's say, you invest in waste recycling facilities and all of that, it's in tier 2 of the 2022 SIPP. But it is the obliged that will apply. Hindi po gobyerno ang magbibigay. Alam niyo naman pagdating sa tax incentives, ikaw mag-a-apply.
Yes.
So, ganun po.
Actually,
So, at least may chance.
Oo, naitanong po din namin yon to the Secretary on behalf of some of our OEs already, no? Because marami nga sa kanilang, more than 20 even before pa. And I think they want to be very supportive, but there are also restrictions as to what they can do as an agency. So to the point of Attorney Andin, there is no harm in applying under the current regulations so that you can seek for exemptions, di ba?
In fact, there was a suggestion that we include in the IRR, though the rules and the procedure for applying for exemptions. We actually told them no, because we're not the agency tasked to manage tax incentives and this type of incentive. So if we try to include it in the IRR and the agency like BOI and FIRB or DOF change their rules, we have to amend the IRR. Total, ang nag-a-apply, nasa batas naman, is the obliged and the PRO and the collective. So let them follow the rules there para hindi na maraming nakakalito.
Actually, sinabi, actually that was the Secretary said the same thing, and she actually mentioned that in Section 12, for those who are interested, it's not so much beyond compliance in the offsetting, the 20% or the 40%, but there were some who were talking about CapEx investments. Definitely pwedeng mag-apply po, pero there are existing systems in place to receive those applications, which should not fall under EPR po.
Okay. Ganito, if I may, I can see some questions dito sa chat. The framework is needed for registration. Can this be changed after initial submission? The framework, yes. You can always modify. No? You are allowed to modify, adjust, and we do expect you to modify and adjust your EPR programs. Flexible dapat.
All right. Next question. How about for refilling? Can an obligated enterprise have credits for that?
The answer is, how do you establish it? How will you propose it? It's in section 15, no, 6. It's in 16 point. In the IRR, we described how, but let me give you the summary. The quick summary is this. Just because you do refilling, it doesn't mean na creditable na yan. Hindi automatic yan. For it to become creditable, there should be a corresponding reduction in the single-use packaging that you release to the market. Because if it's just another window for marketing without a reduction of the original footprint, yung baseline, walang itinulong yan.
Correct.
So ang point natin is dapat you must be able to prove that if government says, okay, you do refilling, we will credit it. Ano ang baseline mo? Ano ang i-roll out mo in terms of refilling, at ano ang anticipated reduction mo in the single-use packaging that you will release to the market. It has to be that way. Quantifiable, traceable. Those are terms you will read through the IRR. Quantifiable, traceable, auditable.
Yes, correct. Attorney Andin, just as I'm not sure who asked the question, but we have dealt with this in the past before with the auditors, no? Because technically, tama yung si Attorney Andin. What basically happens is it's not a credit. Once the auditor has validated yung quantifiable effect nga ng activity, usually ninenet nila sa plastic footprint for compliance. Kasi it becomes a netting out activity if the auditor can validate the benefit of that. Parang it's almost as if it's an insetting activity, di ba? So hindi siya nakakasama sa net footprint nung OE, is my understanding based on our best practices with the auditors. Pero tama, dapat quantifiable. How will you make the argument for that activity na dapat hindi siya isasama?
Yeah. Pero kasama yan sa utos din sa EMB na to the DNR na i-develop pa yung crediting system, but at least yung bottom line criteria is there. No, I'm able to share with you the bottom line criteria.
Okay, let's go to the next question. For consumer or retail products, who will report these as part of the plastic footprint? Is it the manufacturer, the distributor, or the retailer? And in relation to that, in case of the whole value or supply chain, from the supplier or the producer, or to the likes of Lazada and other e-commerce businesses, how should the responsibility be decided on that case?
Ganito, okay? First rule, and thank you very much, Attorney Dilbert, for the guidance. Follow the brand. Rule number 1, follow the brand. Yung rule number 1. Kasi remember, ang EPR, ang primary focus is post-consumption waste. So, pag nakita ko yan sa kalye, follow the brand. Yun ang accountability. Okay? Now, when you follow the brand, maituturo, it may be a sub-brand of another company. May trace mo na yung accountability there. First yun. Second, is you follow the rules on the definition of who are obliged enterprises under Section 13. No? Ano yung plastic packaging and then yung obliged enterprises under Section 14 ng IRR or 44E ng batas, no? As to who are obliged enterprises. Now, paano yung contract manufacturing? The answer is covered yan. No? Ang issue is kung contract manufacturing, kanino brand? Again, you follow the brand. Okay? So, yun. And then yung sa MSMEs naman, ang example naming madalas dyan, kailan mako-cover ang MSMEs when they carry the same brand at ang total asset nung lahat ng MSMEs that carry the same brand exceeds 100 million, then it is the franchisor that is required to submit an EPR program, hindi yung franchisee. Ibababa niya sa franchisees niyan yung kanyang EPR program for implementation. That's how we operationalize that. Yung Shopee and Lazada is again...
I was just going to ask this. It's very interesting.
It's an issue that we will have to try to reach out to them and try to sort things out. Why? Ano ang kanyang footprint when you really come to think of it? Are they the ones who wrap, let's say, a figurine? You order a figurine or bottle of perfume, whatever, that's breakable. When you receive the delivery, there is a single-use plastic with a sticker on it, and then you will first encounter, I think, 4 or 5 layers of bubble wrap. Okay. Now, question: footprint ba ni Lazada yung bubble wrap? The answer is no. Kasi sino ang nag-bubble wrap? Yung seller, micro or MSME. Ngayon, pag sinabi mong pwede bang diktahan ni Lazada, uy, seller, tama na isang layer ng ng balot, ng bubble wrap. Kasi may problema kapag sobrang kapal ng bubble wrap. Sagot ng seller, Lazada, ikaw taga-pick up ng binebenta ko. Pag nabasag ba yan in transit, babayaran mo. So you now have an issue of liability, accountability and liability. So it's not a simple matter of just because you see it comes in a bag of Lazada or Shopee, liability na kagad ni Lazada at Shopee yan. Hindi ganun kadiretso yung equation na yan. It's again a business model that has to be studied and dealt with accordingly. We're hoping that Lazada and Shopee could reach out and collaborate with government and with us para paano mapagtulungan yan. Because reality naman yan, we don't want to get exposed for liability unnecessarily because they're trying to comply with the law. Diba? Liable naman sila doon sa seller. So it's a business model that has to be studied. Anong tawag namin dyan? Sui generis. Case of its own. We'll have to look at it that way.
Okay, quick time check. We have 10 minutes left. We want to ask.
There are so many questions.
Yeah, there's so many questions.
It's
We saw
okay.
them all. We want everyone to know that we saw them all. We're not ignoring any of the questions, but we're pressed for time. We are compiling all of this, and yeah, we're compiling everything, and we'll try to answer them offline. For our last question, we want to end on a hopefully positive note. So this question goes, hi, I would like to know how are our country's collection, segregation, and recycling facilities and systems being improved to effectively cater more recyclable and reusable packaging materials in compliance with EPR. So how are we improving our systems?
I'll also weigh in after Attorney Andin.
Sa akin, the way I see it is LGUs are shaping up. Okay? The ALG has been jumping on their back to improve their waste collection system. People have to understand also how our waste collection system runs. Just because you see a truck, a garbage compactor truck, that looks like a Christmas tree with sacks hanging all on the roof, on the side. Please do not judge them immediately as violators. No. Actually, recyclable yung mga nasa sako. Okay? That's one. Two, you have companies investing in recycling. I've heard of one case, and when I asked about some detail, they were able to deliver, I think, 20,000+ school chairs made of recycled plastic, primarily sachets. Nung hiningi ko yung equation per chair, ang ending number ko is about 20,300,000 sachets ang nagamit nila to come up with those school chairs. And the school chairs were delivered in school, and the company even threw in parts and after-sales service in case masira ng mga bata. So are models evolving for us to strengthen our effort towards a better world? The answer is yes, but we need more. Not only from companies, but also from ourselves.
Thank you, Attorney Andin. And ComSec, I'm not sure if you want to weigh in here as well, but as far as I'm concerned, and the entire PCX team, I'm sure will echo this, but it is precisely the arrival of EPR that will fuel the growth of options in this space and create an industry for circular economy. I completely agree with the person who asked the question. Those systems, for the most part, do not exist today. We keep talking about the circular economy, but actually wala po tayo noon. So the fact that may EPR will actually force this industry to start to grow. And this is the wonderful thing about EPR, because the way the government has structured it is sana po walang free riders. Narinig natin si Kong Rufus earlier. He was very, very adamant about that in the crafting of his bill. So the arrival of this EPR is good news for people like you who asked the question na this will start to develop starting now because of EPR. So as we look back, hopefully in a few years when we look back, we'll be fondly remembering, how these activities were spurred to the point of Attorney Andin on upcycled content, recycled content, diba? Hopefully the infrastructure develops domestically as well para hindi po tayo import, diba? So that we really become sustainable as a country. First of all, I want to thank everyone. We had 213 participants in the call. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and participating in such an informative session. And that is thanks to our wonderful speakers, ComSec, you never fail us. Attorney Andin, your memory is incredible. I want to see you on some game show at some point. You're amazing. Congressman Rufus, who's always so helpful. Of course, Senator Villar, who couldn't be with us today, and everybody else who joined us on the call. Attorney Ivy Joyce, de Pedro was wonderful. We look forward to continuing to work with you. I'm sure many of the OEs here are feeling relieved and empowered to deal with this legislation now based on your information. And if any of you have any further questions that were not addressed today, and I saw so many in the chat group, don't worry, we will take note of them, try to answer them offline for you with the relevant person who can answer them. But the last thing I want to say is we at PCX have the privilege to see every day in action the businesses who are trying to be a force for good. And we hope to continue to be able to assist you in your aspirations, all of you, for a cleaner and healthier Philippines. Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone.